So we're going to get started. So you can all see the agenda here for today. We shouldn't be too long. We should hopefully be about 20, 30 minutes max. So I'm going to do an introduction to the neighborhood. Also, then I'm going to show you a little, or that includes basically a video that I did a couple of years ago on the neighborhood. This is Bluredale Village. Then we're going to go over to Bob Papadopoulos of Red Brick Inspections. He's going to talk about the property, a bit about the property, because he inspected this for us before we went to market, just to make sure everything was sound with the home. Then we're going to talk to Vine Group. We have Johnson and Tyler on here today. They're going to be speaking about, what would the mortgage look like for a property like this. The income, obviously this is an income property. Okay, and then finally, hopefully the homeowner will come on here and we'll do a quick questions and answers on the property. At any point, if you want to actually ask us questions, do please reach out to us.
It's not supposed to be that thick. Herding is just a thin coat. I know. I'm telling you.
Okay. I'm gonna mute some people here, if that's okay.
And if you have any questions, you can just type it in the chat box, or you can raise your hand.
Okay, folks, so let's get started. So this is basically a Bluredale Village video tour. I'm not going to watch the whole thing. It's 5 minutes, but it's something we did a couple of years ago to kind of introduce people to the neighborhood. So we're just going to start this off now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this brief introductory tour to Bluredale Village and Doverport Village in the heart of Toronto. At the start of this little tour, there was some photos taken, aerial shots in the summertime right here in Duffin Grove Park. So we're just going to do a little brief tour. We're going to walk along below the commercial strip, show you some of the finer points in Bluredale and Doverport Village, places to go with the family. But I did want to start off here on this beautiful spring day when the families are starting to come out of their shells and give you a quick walk through Duffin Grove Park. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bluredale Village. And just over here behind us, we have Doverport Village. So here in the heart of Bluredale Village, we have a new brew pub which moved into the neighborhood. We have Dr. Burdock. They brew their own beers and stuff. They do great soda bread as well too. So we're going to take a little gander down this main strip of Bluredale. I'm going to mention some of the great spots that we have in the area, both in Doverport Village and over here in Bluredale Village. And I just wanted to point out right now, behind us here, this is Bloor Collegiate and Kent School. There's 7 acres of land here that's going to be redeveloped. The land has been sold to the developer, and right now there are a lot of talks going on between the councillor, neighbours, community, and also the developers. So it's going to be a mixture of high-rise, low-rise. There is supposed to be 30,000 square foot community centre for locals in the area, and of course there's going to be a lot of commercial as well.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there. Again, we will send out a link to everyone on the call to watch the rest of the video so that you can watch that further. I just wanted to note on this property behind the development still hasn't gotten off the ground. What they're doing right now is Kent School here. They've actually torn down a huge lot within that 7 acres and they're building the school. They're rehousing this school. So once the school has moved over there, they'll actually start digging this ground. There are going to be about 3,000 residences in this neighborhood or built on this site. Okay, so let's go back to our agenda. So next we're going to do a quick walk about the house. Again, I'm not going to go too in-depthly into walking around the house too much, but I'll just show you what these 3D tours actually, what they look like. So you can see here, we can basically go into the house and zoom around. Now, obviously, this is a 3-unit property, so you come in the front door there, and you go into one of the units in here. So you can zoom around very much like Street Google. I don't know if you've seen something like this before, but it's a fantastic way, particularly in our current environment with the pandemic, to actually filter out really serious buyers for property. So like I say, we're going to send you a link so that you can, if you wish, you can go through the property at your own leisure, like that. Somebody's interested, really interested in checking out the property, we can then obviously organize a physical viewing. What some people are doing is they're actually doing offers contingent on viewing. So sometimes we get the negotiations out of the way, agree on price and everything, and then let's say there's an agreement in place, somebody can actually then just go in, check out the property and remove that condition. Okay, so any questions so far, folks? You're all good?
All good over here.
Yep.
Good stuff. Okay. All right. Next, I'm going to pull up the summary inspection report that was done by Bob Papadopoulos with Red Brick Inspections. And I'm actually going to take that over here. And go full screen. So Bob, Bob Papadopoulos is on here as well. He's done the inspection on the property. Bob, do you want to give a bit of an introduction on your business,
yeah.
how long you've been doing? I mean, we've been working together for over 10 years. You've done inspections for most of my buyers, most of my sellers for 10 years now.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for about 20 years now. I'm a registered home inspector and I'm a professional engineer. I've seen basically every house, every type of house you can think of, not just in the GTA, but all over sort of Southern Ontario, I guess. So I think I probably have seen over 5,000 homes by now, and buildings too. So those are my credentials. Did you want me to go over the summary then?
Yeah, I think everyone can see here on their main screen the rough summary for 10 Armstrong Avenue.
Right. So so the report breaks down into all those areas you see, the roof, exterior structure, etc. And this is just an overall summary. You know, within the body of the report, there's more information, more description and recommendations, small and big. So so starting with the roof, right? Essentially what I want people to know is approximately how old it is and how long it'll last, so they can, you know, budget for the future. And in this case, I think they've got some time, right, to budget for a new roof. In other words, the roof is not really old, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing maintenance to it. So in the main body of the report, there'll be recommendations for monitoring and maintaining. On the outside, again, overall well maintained. You know, I may have had some minor preventative maintenance items in the body of the report, but overall it's good. Overall well built house, so I didn't find any structural issues. Nothing big. And the 200 amp electrical service is actually adequate because it's actually above average, but since the house, I think it's 3 units, right? It's
3 units,
adequate
yeah.
for 3 units. And the wiring's been upgraded to copper grounded, because as you know, this neighborhood might have knob and tube wiring or older type of non-grounded wiring, but that's not the case here. The furnace is older. Again, the report will say how old it is. It's probably over 20 years. When it's over 20 years, I say it's older. Continue servicing until it becomes necessary to replace. So this is an item I want people to understand that might need to be done soon. Same with the air conditioner, right? So it's older, continue using it. If it's still working, then just use it.
So I guess Bob, they're like maintaining it. It could last for another 5 years or so.
That's right. Yeah, with proper maintenance. That's right. I've seen them over 30 years. So it just depends on how well they're maintained, and sometimes the product too, right? The make who makes them. Some companies are better than others, obviously.
Yeah.
So with the insulation, I tried to get up into the roof space, but I guess during the reno, they just sealed everything off, so I couldn't tell. If we were having a conversation while going to the house, since the house has been renovated, I'd probably suggest that, the installation is adequate since it was extensively renovated. And when you renovate, you usually add insulation, but I just can't prove it.
Yeah.
With the plumbing, I turn on sort of three fixtures at once. Let's say in the bathroom, I'll flush the toilet, run the shower, and run the sink faucet just to check for pressure. And overall, if the shower head is still, working, then the pressure is good.
Yeah.
And the washrooms and kitchens, they've been upgraded, obviously, because the house has been renovated and they're overall in good repair. And then again, with the interior overall well maintained, I didn't find any serious issues. I think overall I rated it to just above typical. So that rating is often debatable. But what would make it higher, right? If maybe the furnace and air conditioner were newer, I would probably go up a notch or two, right? That's how I do it.
And I mean, like us, you have been inspecting homes, these 100-year-old homes that have been updated and upgraded at various points over the last century. This is very standard grading that I see, not just with your own home inspections, but across the board. That's typical for homes of this age.
Yeah. Like typical is good, right? Like people think this is a 0 to 100. It's not. It's actually like a bell curve. So if you're in the middle, then you're doing all right.
Great, wonderful. And of course, if anyone is interested, just in the package we'll send out, all of Bob's information is going to be in the package. And even if you wanted a guided tour with Bob of this property, for $150, you can actually get another walkthrough where you'll actually have the full report and be able to go into it more in-depthly. Well, thank you so much, Bob. That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so next on the agenda, we're going to talk to Tyler and Johnson from Vine Group. Now let me pull up your sheet here, guys. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourselves? Let me just make sure you're not unmuted. So Johnson, you're good to go. Tyler, you're good to go. Let me just put this on full screen here. And we can talk about the finances of the property.
Perfect. So just a little background. Obviously, we want to make sure everyone's comfortable and then aware of who we are and how we can assist you in your mortgage journey. Tyler and myself have been working with Vine Group now, me personally for 3 years, directly with the founder, David Gonzalez, and then the managing partners, Hugo Dostrais and Christopher Darwich. In that time, I've been working as not only an underwriter, but then now a mortgage agent. And I've had the ability to personally fund upwards of $400 million in 3 years' time. Tyler has now worked closely with myself to ensure that everyone's getting that customized solution. And then as well, making sure that when we do speak, we're doing a holistic review and taking into account not only a property that we're looking at today, for example, 10 Armstrong, but then also your goals 5 years from now to ensure that you're continuously able to grow and make sure your mortgage works with you. So in that regard, what we wanted to do was obviously do a quick little breakdown for you today in terms of the opportunity that you're seeing with 10 Armstrong. And with that would come down to this breakdown sheet that we have here that you can view. So if you were to look at the outline here, we're looking at the taxes that you'd have to be expected to pay, and then as well as the estimated property tax. This goes back to your closing costs that you'd be expected to have on closing. Because one thing that's important to note is that there is a difference between the estimated closing costs or land transfer taxes, which you would see with a first-time buyer versus a non-first-time home buyer, for example, okay? So in that, you're seeing the $36,435 versus a roughly $45,000 cost for the non-first-time home buyer. The typical rebate that the first-time home buyer does receive is in and around $8,000. The important thing then that we're going to break down is just the mortgage amount thereafter. Now, on a property of this purchase price, when we're looking at anywhere over $1 million, you're going to fall into the range of what's going to be considered a conventional or an uninsurable mortgage. So what that means is that there's insurance, or default insurance is paid for by the lender So what happens is the down payment requirements are at least 20%, and then your amortization could be upwards of 30 years. The important thing to note about that amortization is if you are going to be using this as a rental property, which here it has the units broken down for you, this is going to be able to greatly improve your cash flow because you have that extended payback period. So you're on a month-to-month basis going to be able to manage your cash flow a little bit better. So that's then where that $259,800 down payment is derived from. That would be a 20% down payment of $1,299,000. Finally, we just have our estimated payments, and then that's where we can kind of get into things where we can discuss your personal goals, but then as well as the opportunities that are created within the market. So what we did today was we used a standard fixed rate, and then as well as our standard variable rates that are visible in the market as of today. So if you were to look at that, your monthly payments on a fixed rate would be roughly $4,310.31, whereas a variable would be slightly lower, given the reduction in the Bank of Canada's prime rate, and then the discounts that are adjustment factors that are applied to it. So a variable rate as of today would put you at a payment of $4,072.45, which in turn would be able to have you out operating this property, if self-managed, at a net neutral cash flow opportunity, which is awesome in case you're carrying any other properties.
A quick question, Johnson.
Yes, sir.
How are banks looking at these, particularly in the current environment that we're in? Banks being very risk adverse and shying away at the best of times from investment properties, investors. How are they viewing something like this right now in terms of giving financing?
So there is excess due diligence that is going to be done with it if it's going to be used as a 3-unit rental property. One thing that I have noticed that lenders are looking for is in terms of even tenant profiles, if you're getting it where they're assuming tenants, whereas if it is vacant, there may be some lenders that would look for a holdback until they have confirmation of the tenants being in place, right? So when I say a holdback, it would necessarily be if the market rent for one of the units was $2,000 and on possession it's vacant. So they would maybe do a 6-month holdback, which would result in a $12,000 from the original advance being held back from the lender. Once they have the confirmation of the property being occupied, they then would re-advance that money.
Now, are they going as far as, like you say, due diligence on the tenants? Are they going as far as pulling credit reports, or are they requesting credit reports for the existing tenants that are there if they're being assumed?
No, so they haven't. I haven't seen them go that far on a purchase right now. But what it has happened on refinances, which could trickle its way down to a new purchase, is looking for the tenant profiles in terms of like a breakdown, so they could do like a Google search to see if they're currently working, what kind of industry they're in, etc. On the flip side, if they do assume that there is some risk inherent in the application, they would do a scaled back loan to value. So in that case, it would be loan to value maybe somewhat of 75%. With all that taken into account, though, the one thing that we can do, obviously, if someone is looking to purchase the property in question, I would say it's important to do a pre-approval where our team, with myself and Tyler, can do that due diligence on your behalf beforehand. We can gauge the strength of the application in and of itself, and then that way we can have a predetermined kind of idea so that you know when you are making the offer what can be expected on the end of the financing.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, any questions from anyone to Johnson or Tyler in regards to the mortgage end of things? We're all good? If you have any questions as well too, you can also just put it in the text box. Isn't that right, Melissa? Where is that text box? It's open.
Yep, so down below there is a chat. So if you guys are shy, you can just send a message there and I will respond.
Great. Okay, wonderful. So back to our agenda. So thanks so much, folks, for that introduction as well too. And I can highly recommend the Vine Group as well too. I think on our last investment property, they saved my behind and got us the financing that it was proving a bit difficult to get. It was a tough time getting approvals for rentals for us. And I turned to the Vine Group through their association with the Real Estate Investment Network. You guys were heavily aligned with them at that time. Are you? I believe you are still.
There's not necessarily an active relationship with Rain anymore.
Okay.
So,
Okay, but at that time,
yeah,
well, you saved my bacon, anyways.
yeah.
Okay, I believe John. Oh, you're on the line as well, too, John. That's great.
Yep, hello.
Hey, John. So we're at the point where we're actually going to just open this up. We've John, who's the homeowner. How long have you owned the property again?
That's got to be going on probably close to 8.5, 9 years.
8.5, 9 years, yeah. And you used
Yeah.
to actually live at the property as well, too, right?
Yeah, my brother and I actually purchased the place, well, you know, quite a while back, obviously, but no, we both lived there until he moved out. So so I lived on the top floor basically until about 4.5 years ago.
That's great. And tell us about your experience with the home, living there, and then maybe owning it as a rental and that experience.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, the house definitely has a lot more potential as far as income goes than I've exercised. I think that's partially due to the fact that I was living there, and you know, I mean that had my cost essentially down to nothing. So you know, as far as you know, a standalone rental, I mean, there's obviously room to move on both the main floor and upstairs. And then, I mean, as far as living there, I mean, it's an amazing location.
Great.
The neighborhood's fantastic. It really only gets annoying during World Cup or Euro soccer. Portugal.
What?
Anyway, so I mean, if you can put up with that for a couple of weeks, it's every 4 years, it's not so bad.
I sure can.
But the area is great. So I mean, the access to, I mean, there's a lot of shopping around. I mean, Dufferin Mall is probably about 12 to 15-minute walk. The subway's about an 8-minute walk. Same thing to get to the Galleria. I don't know what state that's in. It looks kind of beat up when I went by there the other day. But
they've sold phase 1.
Okay. Yeah.
Phase 1 has been sold, and there are going to be, I believe, 7 phases of that project. It's going to last a decade, but again, just like I mentioned at the start, the big Kent School redevelopment of 7 acres. You're seeing a similar redevelopment. So this neighborhood is it's fantastically transforming.
Yeah.
And the proximity to the subway. I like to kind of comment on this neighborhood and say, think of the Young Line 20 years ago and look at the development that has occurred all the way up past the 401 and up even further.
Well, there's nothing. I mean, there's a ton of space that can be developed along there. I mean, you know, especially kind of on the north side of DuPont, you know, kind of heading a little bit further into that sort of area along the railroad tracks. I mean, there's a ton of old buildings there, a ton of old, you know, warehouse space that I think is really kind of, you know, being very, very underused. You'll see what happens after this. I think that'll probably be something that'll pop up after, you know, after a lot of businesses kind of die after COVID. But no, like the you know, the access to the highway, you know, kind of filtered through by Parkside Drive. You know, it's good in that regard. You know, there are parks close. There's a skating rink, a swimming pool. So I mean, it's got a solid location. And then as far as kind of the you know, the area itself, I mean, when we moved there, it was dollar stores, a couple pawn shops, you know, art galleries and shit like that. So I mean, that's flipped over to you know, very, very good restaurants, good bars.
And Starbucks.
So, I mean, yeah, well, there's access to pretty much all that stuff, and it's all kind of there. You know, good Mexican food.
Now, one of the things that I really was impressed that you did with the property, John, and I think it's a good selling point, is do you want to just give us a quick minute of, so your concern, obviously you had tenants in the property and you wanted to be very conscious and aware, make sure that they had a safe environment, that you even went to the city and got a fire inspection done on the property. You want to give us
yeah. That's kind of a longer story, but yeah. So I mean, we did get a fire inspection done because I wanted to make sure that everything was up to code. You know, and that's, you know, since the place has both front and back entrances on all apartments, and I figured fire code would be, you know, definitely a good thing to do. You know, we had to make very minimal changes. Really, they just involved putting in, fire doors, a sprinkler in the furnace room, and then closing the open walls that were in the furnace room. So I mean, it was a nominal expense, and I think that on the upside, it'll prove to be a good thing. And I mean, I think that people have responded well, and I just put that in with ads when I do rent it. And people seem to take to it.
Plus, it makes the property a good bit easier if you wish to take the property to the next level, which would be legalizing it.
That's a whole other nightmare. I mean, that's somebody else can take that on. I mean, I looked into it, but that's quite a bit of work to get that done. But
yeah.
I mean, you guys would know how to do it probably better than I would. So
great. Well, thank you so much, John. Anybody got any questions for John while he's on the line, or anyone, the mortgage guys or Bob?
Nope, we're all good over here. The one thing actually just to note was just in terms of the fire inspection, that obviously is going to put the lenders help with their peace of mind on the property itself. Though just because this isn't zoned necessarily as the legal triplex, it does all of the 3 self-contained units, and then it's all being verified via that fire inspection also. So that helps when we go to our lenders so that we can recognize the rent roll from all of the units rather than say just 2 or 1 of them given the zoning.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Anyone else? Anything? We're about to close up right now. We're almost at our 30 minutes. So any other questions quickly?
We got a comment, nice to hear from the actual owner. Great transparency and honesty. So thank you for that feedback.
Great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Listen, I'd like to thank Bob again from Red Brick Inspections. Thank you so much, Bob. We will be sending out the package to everyone just so that you have your contact information as well too. Okay. And of course, Johnson and Tyler from the Vine Group. Appreciate you so much coming on as well too today and give us an insight into the financing for this, particularly an investment property. And John as well too. Thank you for coming on as well too. It's great to have you as the owner on here.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, everyone. Listen, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, everyone, and thank you so much. We'll send out a package to everyone.
Okay,
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donal.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Take care.